Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Sam and Eddie. Sam, I wanted to start with you. Yesterday, the first episode of Loki premiered. I know you being the other big Marvel guy and Eddie being the anti-Marvel man. Well, that's a good superhero, Eddie, if you were to become a Marvel comic.
Anti-Marvel man.
I just think I should be the anti-man. I think that would be my superhero nickname. Which
you're more like the anti-popular man makes it sound like you're just not popular, but it's like anything that other people enjoy, you just
I think I nailed the branding with the anti-man. I think that was as catchy as it was going to get.
He just comes in a meme pair of Land Rollers.
Yes. Or I'm transgender.
With his angry hat on.
Yeah.
That one, for those who don't know, Eddie in one episode wore his little Newsies hat and became the angriest man on the planet.
A flat cap is what it would be called.
And you can have your Louis XIV haircut as well.
Sam, did you watch Loki yet?
I did. I watched it last night.
Nice. So did I.
Look
at that. We are super fans.
I wanted to get straight off the bat with that one. I thought it was good. I really liked it.
Yeah, it was a little slow, but I think it's going to pick up. Like, there's a lot they had to a lot of backstory that they have to put in for people who don't know, who don't read the comics. So I think by episode 3 or so, it's going to be kicking off real well, I think.
Yeah. The
dynamic between Owen Wilson and Loki is good.
Wow.
Oh, not this Owen Wilson.
What are you doing? What were you, like a frog then?
Wow. Bod.
Why?
Wow.
Oh, come on, Frank.
I did it.
Oh, it's like his sound test all over again, Eddie. Yeah. No, yeah. A ton of world building to go, right? But I think it looks good.
Now,
Eddie, did you watch it?
I actually think I might do at some stage, but no, I have not watched it yet. I think the interesting thing I wanted to speak to you, did you see the really interesting news out of the art world? We've discussed NFTs before. Someone has gone one step beyond in the NFT business.
I have not.
To enlighten us. Yeah. Oh, God.
And an Italian artist auctioned off an invisible sculpture for $18,300. That is made of literally...
Question. Hand up question. What's the proof that they took the sculpture away with them?
He describes it as a work that asks you to activate the power of your imagination. It's just amazing.
You can imagine the artist being like, he never took it. It's still with me. Like the guy's like, no, it's with me. That's terrible. That's I don't understand.
I think the real...
I would enjoy it. I don't think this is how it was, but I would enjoy it if they played it up like it is just a very, very heavy yet invisible sculpture. So like when they go to get it off the thing, the guy like almost drops.
So you have to. You're basically saying you wanted
to carry it.
The auction house should have employed mimes
or improv people.
Yes. Now that
suddenly
I could have got on board with.
Might have made its way through. Oh no! One of the men carrying the statue has just got stuck in a box.
No, but that's a good point, right? Imagine if you did that with mimes and they acted out falling over in it, smashing. Like as the person that bought it, you have to go along with.
Also,
that. Like, does insurance pay out?
Yeah. How do you claim it was stolen? Like, is this just the most brilliant insurance scam ever? Because there must be an insurer. If you are spending that kind of money, there must be an insurer out there that is going to insure it. And in that case, you just immediately go, someone stole it. I don't know how. It's gone.
I guess
I had it so locked up.
You would have to like the insurer would have to lock it up.
Well, I guess they'd have to have a video system in place, and they'd just be like, well, that guy who pretended to pick up an invisible statue clearly stole it. But then how do the police prove that you did? Like, it would just be, it's the perfect crime.
As long as you walk out looking like it's heavy as well.
for our.
I have so many questions. So now, what if once you are in possession of this piece that you've bought, how are you displaying it? Are you locking it up and being like, "Hey, listen, guys, I got a really nice thing I just bought at auction. Let me show you. Let's go to my safe." And you open up the safe and you open it up and it's like, there it is. What do you think? You know?
And then
Or do you
push 'em in
display
and
it for
lock 'em.
everyone
Yeah.
and be like, whoa, 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 watch out. You almost knocked over my sculpture.
But yeah, I think that maybe we said that the Big Chill podcast might have to dip its toes into NFTs. I think we're going to have to dip our toes into Invisibles. Silent podcasts. Silent podcasts. That's going to be our next move.
Silent podcast.
I remember there was that band who, for a while, tried to. They had like silent tracks that they were then just encouraging people to play all the time on Spotify as a way of just trying to like drive Spotify revenue, where they were just telling people like, "Hey, overnight, just put Spotify on loop on this," and it was just like a silent album.
I don't understand the start point of all this. Like, I get the revenue thing. I guess is the start point, but the art, I don't understand. I would just pretend it's in really inconvenient parts of the art gallery, like just like in the middle of the walkway or something. Just like start screaming at people, like, "Hey, watch where you're going!"
Oh, it is
And
Owen Wilson there.
No idea. Yeah. Hey, wow.
But, and now we do have an artist interview coming up, right? The Big Chill podcast is having its first non-sports guest soon, with Vic Lee appearing, who became very popular. Well, I mean, he's been popular for a while, but got a little bit of press surrounding his work with the Corona diaries that he did, kind of graphic novel, sort of recording the history of the pandemic. It's very, very popular at the moment. So will be a change of pace for us with absolutely no sports involved. Although we've had several episodes where basically no sports have been involved, but we're making it official this time.
This is the first one not about sport or food.
We can probably get food in there somehow.
I mean, I'm sure he eats.
There we go.
We're just inviting an artist on to talk about like his everyday meal.
What's your favorite food?
That's my first question to him now.
But yeah, but what we're really here for, right? Anyone listening, anyone watching. So encouraging you, if you're watching, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts, whatever platform you like. You search for the Big Chill podcast, you will find us. I have a tendency to say the Big Pill podcast.
The Big Pill podcast is getting some.
Yeah. So subconsciously, you've got some opioid issues or something.
Yeah, we'll be the Big Pill podcast. But we'll Big Pill podcast. But
not that you believe in the Marvel multiverse theory, but in another universe, there's some guy on the Big Pill podcast going, "I keep saying chill, I keep saying Big Chill podcast,"
and he's like, "I bet you
is
that's
the Big Pill podcast? Is that like a fish oil podcast, all about fish oil?
It's just about vitamins and supplements. It's not a bad idea. Just gonna throw it out there. It's not a terrible idea. Soup Juice might be our second best podcast. The Big Pill podcast is definitely going to be right behind it.
I'm impressed that you keep saying that. I want you to say it like 3 times in a row now,
what?
just to give it.
Beetlejuice appears,
and then some cod will turn up behind you.
Massive cod. That would be
massive cod will just bite your face off.
The well-known ferocity of cod.
A vicious animal of the sea, feared by sailors for centuries. But yes, so if you're watching, make sure to subscribe to the podcast itself. If you are listening, make sure to go to YouTube, because we've just done some Euro 2020 group previews that will be not making it to our podcast, but will be on our YouTube channel. And then obviously make sure to follow us on all the various social media platforms that there are out there. Just search for the Big Chill podcast and you will also find us there. But the reason we are all here, we previewed each of the Euros groups, and now we are going to pick the winner and go through the sort of see who we think is making it to the finals, and see how far we think each team is making it, I suppose. Frank, if you want to do the honors and start sharing your screen. Again, if you're listening, there's a little bit of a sort of visual component to this podcast, but you will be able to understand what we're saying as we're going through it.
All right. So Let's start with.
I see Switzerland are already top of the
Frank's,
group.
Frank's trying to push for that one hard.
I'm trying to push for Switzerland. So
upset
let's
Sam.
start with Group A.
Well, I think we're all in agreement, right, that Italy will be winning this group.
Yeah. Italy,
Italy,
are
number
winning
one.
this group.
This is where it gets.
So this is majority
This
rules,
is majority
right? So
rules.
this is two or three of us, and it goes in.
I'm actually going to go Turkey. I think we'll finish second. Good young side.
Yep.
I think Switzerland are going to be solid, but I think their lack of firepower is going to undo them here.
Yeah. Oh wow, you've already gone
Okay.
Switzerland, Wales. Okay. This is.
I mean, that is my order.
Just-
I will say.
We
So
are-
Switzerland in third, Wales in fourth.
That would.
I see. I would just to say I would probably change it because I just think that Wales have that kind of the star outlet, whereas Switzerland, if their first 11 doesn't perform, I think they're a pretty bad side. But
Oh, because it's
have I
everyone
lost
knows.
the majority here?
I like how you're like there's their first 11.
I think Switzerland would be third.
You think Switzerland would be third?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we wrapped up Group A in rapid style.
That was
Yeah.
easy.
That was pretty easy. I just wanted to say, like, I thought this was like a good little bet because I was looking at teams progressing through kind of the round of 16 quarterfinals, etc. And Turkey to reach the quarterfinals are 9-2. So if you think they're finishing second, the bonus here is that they would play second in Group B. And you look at that, and we're going to be saying now probably Russia or Denmark. And I think Turkey are better than both of them.
I'm
I
going to
think
disagree
there
with
could
you
be a
there,
good
but
shot
we'll
there
cross
for
that.
9-2.
We're going to cross that bridge when we come to it in the next round. Why don't we save that debate for a little bit later, and let's go.
Save that juicy debate for later.
Let's.
All right. Group B, here we
So
go.
we all agree.
All right, Group B.
Russia.
Belgium.
Belgium
I
first.
mean,
Finland last.
I preferred Finland last. Okay.
Interesting, mixing things up. I'm going Denmark to finish second.
I think Denmark
I'm
second.
going Denmark second as well.
Perfect. Wow, we are crushing
Only a
through this, guys.
3-minute video.
Oh, wow.
God.
This is
Do we even have to watch all the Euros? We should just give them the results.
Yeah. So I think we're all going to agree. Group C, then Netherlands top the group.
North Macedonia. I've been outvoted. Wait a minute.
Need to remember, Sam, that people are listening to this. So when you're just throwing out few names, if they're not watching, this would be impossible. So we have
Yes, Netherlands
top in the
first.
group.
And North Macedonia, we've slotted in at
so
fourth.
the big debate is
The question becomes second and third.
I would go Ukraine second. They had a really good qualifying performance against some pretty tough teams, like they beat Serbia and Portugal to top that group as well. So I think they can go into this one feeling pretty strong against Austria. So I'd pick Ukraine as second.
I will agree with you. And it's not so much a vote of confidence for Ukraine. It is a vote of no confidence in Austria's ability to score goals. So I'm going to put, for me, I'm also going to agree Austria in third.
Yep. I'm with both of you on that.
Well, halfway there through the group stages. Now things get interesting. I think we're all going to agree Group D. This is England's group. I think we'll agree that England will be topping it.
Yep,
I can agree to that.
I can agree. with
Croatia
this.
in second.
I will agree to Croatia in second. Yep.
I'm going to go
Okay.
Czech Republic in third.
Yes, I am too.
Yeah, I think
And
so too.
Scotland last. Yeah.
Yeah. The issue here we're having, right? We're picking close to chalk, I would say. There's always a little bit of an upset,
I don't
right?
know if
Yes.
we've gone chalk with the group winners. We haven't necessarily gone chalk with the second place. I mean, Turkey and Switzerland are pretty much joint favorites, right? For second. Denmark are favorites to finish second. Ukraine and Austria are pretty much the same odds.
Yeah.
And here, Croatia are favorites to get second. So we've not picked an upset yet, but maybe we'll get one here.
Maybe we'll do one
There
here.
will be one. So Spain first.
In Group E. Yeah, I think Spain are topping it.
Slovakia fourth for Group E. So battle for second. Poland or Sweden?
See, in our Group E preview that we posted, I agree with the fact that if Lewandowski is going to do something in a major tournament, I think this is probably the one. He's absolutely brilliant at the
On
moment.
fire.
He's stellar in terms of like
In
scoring goals,
in
etc.
fuego.
And all they need is like a young player to come through and become an incredible talent, or so often with these Euros you're going to find a couple of star players from somewhere, and without Zlatan in the Swedish team, I just think it tips it to Poland. So for me, I would put Poland second.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you. My vote is for Sweden to finish second. I'm not tempted by betting on the one-man army. And as we touched on in our group previews, Lewandowski has not been as prolific at an international level in recent times as he has been for Bayern Munich. I just think
Frank?
he could.
Shit.
Yeah, you're the casting vote. Now, Frank.
We need the casting vote and a full
vote.
justification.
You both make very good arguments. Yeah, no. So this was actually the group that I reviewed in detail for our YouTube channel. So I think, while I would normally agree with Eddie that you can't take the one-man team, I think you're looking at the one-man team coming off his best, arguably his best season ever. And I think the negative that Eddie points out of only having 2 goals in the Euro competition, I think that's going to play into it, where he's going to be extra motivated, coming off a great season, needing to perform, knowing he needs to perform for his team to advance. So I'm going to go Poland.
Oh, we've given Eddie leverage now to say, I told you so. Sucks.
I know. It's all right. Either way, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Because then we have to listen to him saying he knows what he's talking about and he's right. So Spain, Poland, Sweden, Slovakia.
Yep.
Last group. The group of death.
So I think we can all probably agree that Hungary are last. I don't think they're getting out of this group.
Okay.
Personally, for me, the French will top this group.
See, this is where I know that in the group previews I picked France to top the group. I think this is the sensible decision. But part of me wants, if I think there's a group where a surprise is going to happen in terms of who wins the group, I could just see, you're just asking yourself, can Germany or Portugal beat France in either of these games? I think that is conceivable. But I do agree, the sensible thing, if we're doing a true prediction and not trying to sort of pick a surprise for a surprise sake, that France tops the group.
I mean,
I agree.
The thing that goes with Germany here, right, is all 3 of their games are in Munich as well. So they've got the home advantage. It could happen. And Germany are kind of, until the last World Cup, have been incredible tournament team. So it could happen. But like you say, the sensible thing here is to pick the best team. And I think the best team are France.
Now, we didn't cover this in the group talks, but what's the situation with crowds?
So all of the
I saw Spain has some fans allowed.
So all of the crowds, or all of the host cities, have had to commit to a certain amount of occupancy or guarantee a minimum amount of occupancy per game, which is why Dublin, for example, couldn't host, because they couldn't give those assurances about COVID safety and security. Wembley, I believe, is 22,500.
Do you want me to come in with some actual facts here, Sam?
Is it
yeah, that'd be great.
Rather than just Sam's random conjectures about how many people might be making it into stadiums. I'm not going to go through it on a stadium-by-stadium basis. The lowest capacity in terms of percentage capacity attending a match will be in Munich, where only 20% of the stadium will be filled. But you do have, and the highest is Amsterdam, Bucharest, Rome, and London, all of which will have 25% capacity for their matches. In terms of...
Oh, okay. So it's not a huge...
No.
Flux. I thought you were going to say like 80%.
No. In terms of raw numbers, the stadium with the lowest attendance will be Hampden Park in Glasgow, which will only allow 12,965 people to attend. That's just because it's the smallest stadium hosting matches.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so getting back to Group F, we think France will win. Are we in agreement that Germany will be second?
Yes.
Okay. And then that leaves Portugal for third place. That completes our groups. Now we have to predict the 4 best third place teams out of the third place teams from each group.
Yeah. So my vote, I guess I'll throw a team out there and you can... I'm going to put Portugal in just because I'm expecting them to beat Hungary. And then I think they can pick up a point somewhere else. And 4 points, when you think that you're only eliminating 2 fourth place teams, right? I think 4 points is probably going to be enough. As much as there is every chance they lose both games against Germany and France, which could put them on only 3. And if obviously they could be basically out of the running if they don't beat Hungary in that opening match. So it's a prediction that comes with a huge bit of risk. But if they do win that opening match, you'd hope, if you're Portuguese, obviously, that they can get a point somewhere else. And that might just be enough.
So I kind of, like Frank said, like we were going chalk with some of this, but I think the third place one might be where this starts to happen, because they're going to see those permutations of like how many goals they need to score to kind of overtake someone and go into the third place. So you might see some unpredictable things happen in these games. So for me, I'm reluctant with Portugal. I just think they could easily finish this on 3. It could be something very easily happen, and if Frank would go down to it, that would be great. For me, I think Sweden will go through. I think they'll pick up 4 points.
Hold on. We got to do this on a team by team basis, because
I'm saying no.
You're saying no to Portugal. So now Frank has. If Frank is a yes, Portugal are through. If Frank is a no, Portugal are out.
These are so tough because no, I don't think so. I think they're only going to get 3 points.
All right, Portugal's out.
But 3 again.
Yeah, Portugal's out then.
Okay.
Which obviously this then influences. Even though I have picked Portugal to go through, I now have to pick 4 of the remaining 5 teams to go through. If you see what I mean,
yeah,
it does force my hand to a degree.
Yeah,
I'm going to say that Sweden are one of the teams to go through, just because I think
I agree.
So just to go back into Group E,
I think they beat Slovakia.
Sweden has,
and then I think I think I'm going to put them on a minimum of 4 points, and that could well be enough.
Yeah, I agree. I
agree.
I think they'll be there.
Okay. Next one will be the Czech Republic coming out of Group D. Can they beat Scotland?
Yes,
but we're kind of working under the assumption, right, that 3 points is not going to be enough, which we might have to revisit. I mean, I'm going to put Czech.
I know, that's what I'm saying. We might have to. That's why I said originally. I don't know if we can rule out Portugal.
Maybe we can.
I'm going to say that the Czech Republic do not get more than 3 points, so I'm taking them out.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to Group C. Then you have Austria, who should at least get 3.
I'll put them through.
Can they draw with Ukraine?
I think they could draw. I mean, I don't think it's inconceivable to even pick up a point against the Netherlands just because they are so defensively solid. So I'm going to say that Austria go through.
Yeah.
I agree.
They're a solid structured team. I could easily see it happening. So yeah, I agree.
I'm going to apply exactly the same logic to Russia, which is that I think that they will beat Finland, and then one of the easiest opponents to have in this tournament. And then I think they have the chance of picking up a point, even beating Denmark. So I'm going to put them as a team that goes through.
Yeah, I can agree to that as well. I'm ready, kind of looking forward through Group A here.
That's why I feel.
Well, but let's get there. Cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. Okay. So Group A, you have Switzerland in 3rd. I don't know for sure that they beat Wales.
In my Group A preview, I kind of said that the Swiss would come last. So now, as a Big Chill podcast, we've agreed that they're 3rd. I don't think I can pick Switzerland.
Well, then we're going to have to go back and put Portugal in.
Yeah. So, yeah, going through this,
which I am fine with Switzerland not making it and Portugal making it.
Yeah, I can see Switzerland with 2 points. Conceivably. I can see, yeah, I agree. I think Portugal over Switzerland.
I think Portugal are a very good side, so there is the ability for them to do something. I think, for me, the Swiss are a worse team, so obviously they are, but I think they're just going to be worse against those teams in their group. So, yeah, I think after looking at that, I'd probably have to go down to Portugal. So, yeah, I'd swap.
All right. So Portugal, who
So Russia, Austria, Sweden,
Portugal, who were eliminated first
Okay.
right off the bat, they're back. They've good news, Portuguese people. You're back in it.
Just never say die. And guys, we are nearly there now to predict the knockout stage.
Now's when things get really tricky. Whoa, can't even see them.
Can you see them
I mean,
at all?
I can see against Ugal. So maybe if you could scroll a little bit over to the left, I'd be able to actually see who's.
and then I can see no one v Ein
Yeah.
or Ein.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Can you zoom out of your screen?
You're listening to the big.
There
Show
you go.
podcast.
We've got it now. We've got it now.
Watching Frank battle a
Yes.
webpage. We got it.
All right. So we've all been skeptical about Portugal's chances of getting through.
It's a good
I
game.
could see them. It's a very good game. I could see them spring. I mean, if you're Belgium, you're not happy. You had a kind of relatively straightforward group stages, and now you're being thrown one of the toughest first knockout rounds matches. But I got to put Belgium going through.
Yeah, man, that's as shitty a draw as you can get.
It's-
Belgium versus Portugal.
Yeah, I know you've already picked them, but the reason I go Belgium as well is they've still been pretty good in these tournaments. Like, I know we're talking about a golden generation of winning, but they've still hit a quarter and a semi in the last two. So I even though Portugal are a good team and a pretty perennial Euro team, I think Belgium are just better.
Bold prediction. Sam saying the number
know,
one team
tough.
in the world might be better than Portugal. Oof. The Big Chill podcast coming at you.
Next
Hot
match.
takes. I mean, Italy
Ukraine.
keeping clean sheets for fun at the moment. Ukraine, not exactly a team I can see being free-flowing in attack and scoring tons of goals. Seems like a very good matchup for Italy. I think Italy would go through.
Agreed. They scored
I agree.
37 in 10 games as well in qualifying. So it's not only that they're defending well, but they're scoring pretty freely as well. So, yeah.
Next match you have is France v Russia.
I think this one's pretty clear cut.
Russia, right?
I'm going to go France with this one. Yeah.
Yeah, France. Yeah. Well, don't need to.
I mean, Russia should be happy to even be in this match
That might be a little bit disrespectful.
and have made it out of group
But-
stage. I
Didn't know
think
we
to make it out of the
Do we
group
really
stage.
want to be insulting Russia on our podcast? I don't know if that's what. Vladimir, if you're if you're listening to this, that was Frank. You can find him in Arizona.
I've just seen the draw down the line.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
This is the way
Sam.
Sam lives.
But it
This is the way
sucks.
It's very revealing, right? We get to see two interesting insights into the way Sam's life works. A, he can't help but look ahead, and B, he can't help but be crippled by the number of options he then faces.
Actually, for everyone who's listened to the group previews as well, Sam also loves history, so he likes looking ahead, but he also likes recalling previous things that made him extremely upset.
Croatia Poland's an interesting one, though. It's probably the closest one so far to not clear cut.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Very interesting way of phrasing it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I am going to.
It's the most open match. So
I think
far,
Croatia
for sure.
just are better across, sort of everywhere apart from up front. So I'll take Croatia to qualify.
Yeah. So I agree. And actually, that makes a rematch of the World Cup final.
Sam, stop looking.
But stop getting ahead of
ahead.
yourself, Sam.
The next match is not a rematch of the World Cup final because it's Spain against Austria. You have to say here, Spain. We in the group previews we talked about the fact that there's maybe some question marks over the squad. A lot of players who need to make that next step up. It's not the old Spanish golden generation. This is a nice draw for them. So I'll take Spain to beat Austria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well.
Well, I don't think Spain will go much further. I think this is an optimal draw for them for the round of 16. Okay. England v Germany, a mouth-watering matchup.
I mean, isn't this on paper the way England's tournament should end? Just
Penalties.
no, not even on penalties. Maybe even just being semi-dismantled by a German side in a knockout stage, and then suddenly everyone going like, "Oh, you know how we thought Germany were really bad? Turns out they're very good, and they have just taken care of England." That
I feel like Germany match up well against them too, right?
I would say no, because I think the big question marks over Germany are defensively, and the strengths of this England team is going forward. So, as long as Gareth Southgate tactically, as we've discussed in the past, gets out of his own way and accepts that the way this England team is going to win this tournament is by being more adventurous, assuming he can do that, then I think that this is not a matchup that should scare England too much, apart from just the fact that on paper this is Germany. So I'll pick England to advance.
I think England are 4-1, by the way, to lose to go out of this tournament on penalties at any point.
I don't even know why that's interesting.
It's just interesting that the market's even there in the first place. I guess there's always that idea that we could go out because of our history with them until Colombia. England, Germany. I don't know if this is one of the games at Wembley, because I know England missed one, but hopefully this is one of the ones at Wembley. I think going into this, England will be favourites if this was the match and we were going to put like odds on it. And I agree with Eddie's point is I think Germany's kind of weaknesses are actually where England's strengths are. And I think the matchup is okay for them. It'd be interesting going into that match, though, after 3 games, what you'll start to see Southgate settling on as well. He would have had 3 games where maybe he's played a back 3, maybe he's gone with the 4, maybe he's switched people around up front as well. So it'll be interesting to see if England have settled a team at this point. But as far as England, Germany have gone and the amount of times I've seen it, this is probably ones where I kind of fancy them more than I ever have. So I'll go England to qualify.
So they have not faced each other since 2017 in a friendly where they drew. The last time they faced in international competition was...
We know. In South Africa. We know.
All right.
We're all well aware of the Frank Lampard no-go.
So we are advancing England. Okay, next match is the Netherlands versus Sweden.
I'll be quick. I think a lot of question marks about Netherlands, but I think... again, they'll be very happy if they end up with Sweden in the first round of the knockout stages, and I think the Netherlands will go through.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're just outright a better team than Sweden. So.
It is crazy to see the luck of this draw, though, huh? I mean, England facing Germany and Netherlands getting to face a team like Sweden.
Not to look too far ahead, but I think it plays out. You're either going to get lucky early or you're going to get lucky late. And part of me would rather get lucky late.
Oh. Bet you would.
Stop looking forward.
Just saying. Turkey, Denmark. I am going to pick Denmark. I just think a little bit of experience there. As much as Turkey have some very talented young players, and this is probably the one so far that I have maybe the most doubts about. But I'm going to side with the experienced team who have shown that they kind of can perform. I mean, they were only knocked out by Croatia on penalties in the 2018 World Cup. So I think they'll get through.
Yeah, Denmark are a good team, but I kind of rate this Turkish side. They're pretty young, pretty exciting. They had a good qualifying as well in terms of they only conceded. I think they've got like 8 clean sheets going through the qualifiers as well. So they're stopping goals, and they've got someone like Yilmaz up front who can score them. So for me, Frank, I'm going to have to put you on the casting vote here because I'm going to go Turkey.
I'm going to go with Denmark. When we did our preview, we talked about how coming into the World Cup qualifiers, they're super hot with a 14-goal differential, not letting up a single goal. So I think they're going to stay hot. I think they can beat Turkey.
So many hot teams in this tournament.
Hey, Eddie, you know what? You get a hot keeper.
Oh, like Schmeigel?
What they say. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I can say the name right
Schmeichel.
now.
Right, we're back to this is an interesting little right. This is one of the sort of
This is a nice
historically
matchup.
biggest teams in Europe against a team who have been enjoying the last sort of 6 years of being one of Europe's biggest sides. To me, I think
So we're
they'll.
so this is Belgium versus
Yeah.
Italy for anyone who didn't get that.
who's not watching. We've now gone. We've moved on to the quarterfinal stage. I think I would love to be able to know whether or not Kevin De Bruyne will be playing at this stage. That would be one thing. I'm going to assume that by the quarterfinals, he'll be able to play a pretty significant part. Probably wearing one of those face masks, but still out there. I'm going to say Belgium get through.
There's always, I feel like there's always going to be one of those games that goes to a penalty shootout, and I actually think this might be one of those absolute crackers where it could be like 2-2,
Sam is
3-3 or something
obsessed
like
with
that.
penalties.
There always is.
But I mean,
There's always gonna be
I think they're going to get
game.
knocked out on penalties. I mean, as far as I think can the group stages go to penalties?
All I have said is England, Germany. Now I'm going on to my second game talking about
I
penalties.
get it. Penalties,
that is not
penalties.
that is not overgoing. I think this could be an absolute cracker if it is a thing. I think it could be like 2-2, 3-3 kind of thing, because they both score goals. They're both very
Italy don't
attacking-minded.
concede goals.
No, they don't. But simultaneously, Belgium are fantastic going forward and scoring. And I think, I think this could be. I think Belgium. I think I'd pick Belgium between these two.
All right. Well, Frank, your vote doesn't matter then. But would you also pick Belgium?
Yeah, I think I would as well.
All right, and now the moment has come, Sam, that you teased earlier on. This is the rematch of the 2018 World Cup final, France against Croatia. France obviously won that 4-2. Controversial penalty decision, obviously, which sort of maybe swung the match in some respects, but I think France would have won anyway. Again, I think France will be very pleased. Having played Russia in the first knockout stages, I think they'd be very pleased to follow that up with Croatia. It's a good draw for them so far. And I'll pick France.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah,
good draw.
Yeah, great draw. And Eddie touched on it when he did the group preview. Croatia they're a good team, but I think they kind of get overhyped a little bit. So I think France should have no problem.
Well, they are a team who people love to talk how they are underestimated, and I think people talk about them as being underestimated so much that they become overestimated.
Yes, exactly.
Now
England have another tough matchup ahead after surviving the efficient German team. They now have the free-flowing Spaniards.
Yeah. They're making their way through fascist Europe, and they've moved on. They've moved on to Spain. England once again fighting back against the spread of fascism through continental Europe. It might just be a repeat of the 1940s. I think confidence at this stage would be flowing through the England team. Having knocked out Germany, I think that will be such a notch on their belt to be able to point to. And it will, I think this England team anyway will have sort of managed to shake off some of their demons just thanks to the 2018 World Cup and making it to a semi-final and getting through a penalty shootout and winning close games. Yeah, as we all know, Sam loves penalties. But I think, again, on paper, a little bit similar to the Germany situation. I think this is easier than playing Germany, but a little bit similar. It's on paper a tough match. But the reality of this is Spain are not a great side at the moment. And this England team should be able to beat this Spanish team. So I will pretty confidently pick. I would be worried about England losing to Germany. I honestly would not be that worried about England losing to Spain.
Yeah.
Frank, do you want to go in? Seeing as we nulled your Belgian opinion last time or French opinion.
No, I'm also going to go England. Another thing we touched on in the group stage is Spain is very hit or miss, and they're not a team you can rely on. I fully agree with Eddie. I think Germany would be the tougher test compared to Spain. Just think about the last time they played was in the Nations League where England won. So a few years ago, teams weren't full strength there, but it's not like one of those things where it's a team they can never beat or something like that. They have the recent history of beating them. So I'll go with England as well.
Actually, that 3-2 win over Spain is widely considered Southgate's probably best performance as kind of an England manager and from an England team under him. So I'd like to think that England can take some positives from that one. But I agree with Eddie. I think there'll be like momentum with the team. But I also think when you get to this stage in a competition, you may have injuries. So I think depth of squad starts to matter more. And I think England have that, just as long as it's not a defensive injury. But I think England have like an abundance of depth up front that they can really do some damage to teams that maybe don't have that. And I think this is one of those games. So yeah, clean sweep for England.
I'm going to go first here because I'm picking what might be on paper my first upset pick of the knockout stages, because I'm going to pick Denmark to go through. I just think this...
And this is Netherlands versus Denmark for those who
are only listening,
cannot see.
The final match of the quarterfinals. And I think that as much young talent as this Dutch team has, I am slightly concerned that, again, maybe a tournament too soon for them and they need a little bit of experience. So I think that Denmark, who just do have a lot of players in there with sort of crucial experience in big stages of tournaments and big stages of leagues, and to a degree in the last World Cup, I'll pick Denmark to sneak through.
I'm going to go Netherlands here. I agree. I don't think Netherlands are that great of a team, but I think they are still a better overall all-around team than Denmark.
Casting vote. I think Denmark are kind of good survivors when it comes to these competitions. They kind of can take good teams all the way and a long distance in them. So I think they're good survivors. But I just think when push comes to shove, I look at the squads, I look at the depth of talent. I just think the Dutch probably have more, and I think they may be able to sneak this one. But I agree with Eddie in so much that if there was an upset out of all of these, I'd probably go for this one, but I don't want to just pick an upset for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. So I do think the Dutch will win. Like, that's the problem I'm in at some point in this.
All right.
Okay.
We're on.
So we have made it to the semifinals of Belgium v. France and England versus the Netherlands.
And hopefully, hopefully you haven't just blown out all the listeners' ears, because you definitely just deafened me.
What?
Yeah.
What?
But I think it should be fine. But yeah, interesting. I mean, this is a rematch of the 2018 World Cup semifinal. Belgium against France. Obviously, France won that match 1-0, I think, if I remember correctly. I think that this would inspire Belgium. This is obviously also, right, a very interesting match. A lot of Belgium-France. It's one of those kind of underrated European rivalries. France very much thinks of Belgium as its kind of little brother, very dismissive of Belgians, make fun of the accents, make fun of the way they speak, kind of treat them as if they're little sort of idiots. Belgium has the same little brother syndrome where they're always trying to beat the bigger brother. I think this is where Belgium get their revenge. Again, I'd love to know exactly how much of a role Kevin De Bruyne is playing at this stage. France definitely has a better overall squad. I think Belgium has the better team. And I also kind of like the fact that up until this stage, France will have been tested in the group stages, but they will have had relatively easy knockout matches. This will suddenly be taking it up several levels, whereas Belgium against Portugal and against Italy, again, confidence would be flowing at this stage. And I think they'll very much feel as if they're kind of working it gradually through the gears. So I think Belgium will make it to the final.
Yeah, that was exactly the point I was going to make. I think when you get to this point of a competition, the kind of match practice, match experience, and who you've beaten really matters. And Belgium can look at teams that are pretty much among their equals, some of the major nations that they're going to have played throughout this, and they're going to come into that match with France with way more kind of understanding of what it takes to beat a bigger team, to maybe go further distances, etc., than France would with the kind of knockout round that they've had. So I agree with you. I think that this is the kind of scenario where France may come undone, and I'm going to go with Belgium as well.
That's a shame, Sam, because I would have went France. But Belgium it is, advancing.
Now, I said you either had to have a tough matchup early, or you're going to have an easy or a tough matchup late. I think France are the example of a side who I think have that easy path to the semifinal and then will come unstuck. I think England have a challenging path to the semifinal, but then the easiest match that they will have played in the knockout stages. Assuming they make it to the semifinal, no matter what happens on that other side of the draw, whether it's Netherlands, Sweden, Turkey, or Denmark, their easiest match of the knockout stages will be this match. Now, they lost against Croatia in not the most challenging World Cup semifinal you could ever have. I think they make up for it here. I think England will cruise through this semifinal if they get this far.
I know you were picking Denmark for the upset. Would the assumption be that you think England would beat Denmark as well? I'm just kind of guessing.
I mean, yeah, what I just said is I think if England make it to the semifinals, assuming they've topped their group, right? Because we kind of got some other variables at play here. But assuming England win their group, which means they're in the slot that we've put them in, they could obviously play a different team in those first couple of rounds. You know, there's a world in which England are playing France in the first knockout round, which would be quite the match. But if England make it to the semifinals, they will then be playing something sort of resembling this set of teams, right? And I think no matter who it is, England will be heavy, heavy favorites at that stage for the semifinal. And I just think that they'll win. I think this will be the sort of, you know, the kind of party atmosphere that built up at Euro 96. And I think this will be the match where it really...
No, I don't actually. I'm sorry.
You should have been there, Frank. But I think this will be the equivalent of that. This will be... if Phil Foden's going to have his kind of Gascoigne moment, I think it could happen here. As England kind of put on a little bit of a show, potentially in the semi-final. I don't think that necessarily means that they win the tournament, but I think this could be an enjoyable moment for England fans if they get here.
Yeah, key point there. And obviously, like you say, the route here matters as well for England because 6 or 7 of these games would have been at Wembley. So there would have been a lot of home field advantage in that. It basically would have been a home Euros for them. Like, I know it's around multiple cities, but to play 6 of 7 at your home stadium is pretty impressive, especially going the route that we've said England are going to go through here, like Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands. I wouldn't in my lifetime have thought that England were going to go through a route like that, maybe Euro 96, because they played all of those teams actually before losing to Germany in the semi-final. But I agree with Eddie on this one. I think that they're almost until, I think England are going to win. So I guess, we kind of know what the final may look like for me. But this is almost like the crescendo was Germany and Spain. And then they've got to this tie where it's almost a bit easier.
Which can be dangerous.
And it's exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough one.
I just think Croatia, again.
A little bit. I mean, Croatia...
A team that they should beat. But a team that they should
The
beat.
difference is, right, England had an easy path to that semifinal. Croatia was the toughest team that they played in the knockout stages. It's just by World Cup semifinal standards, it wasn't that tough of a match. But it was the toughest match that they played in that process. This, on the other hand, no matter what, again, assuming they win their group, this semifinal would be the easiest match. Now, England sort of intentionally finished second, right, in the 2018 World Cup when they and Belgium kind of played that weird game where they both rested all of their players. It was unclear whether either of them really wanted to win it. And the reasoning for that, in a sense, was England trying to get the easier path in the knockout stages. You could make the argument that do you try and get second in the group so that you play conceivably Poland in the first knockout round? Now, you're still then going to end up having to go through France and Belgium on the path to the final, but you might at least avoid the embarrassment of being knocked out in the first knockout round. You kind of maybe give yourself the gimme in the first knockout round.
I mean, I'll be super cliche. I think the reason you play is to win it all, and you're going to have to beat the best to win it all, no matter when you play them. So I don't mind this. And I think the worry here playing the Netherlands is you are going to be maybe a little exhausted after having Germany and Spain, and you could kind of get caught flat-footed. But if you can come back from that, then you might be able to beat Netherlands 2-0, 3-0, and then you have a nice, easy feeling going into the finals, right? So you can play it both ways.
The thing with England here is, like, if this is the route to the final, because we've obviously all picked England here now. If they've beaten Germany, Spain, Netherlands, and then they play Belgium in the final, that won't hold any fear for them.
I think that's wrong. Belgium are ranked number 1 in the world. I think Belgium have the most talented best 11 in this tournament. So I don't think yes, England, if they get to a final, will be very confident. They will have had to have played well on the way there, and I think they'll feel as if they could beat anyone. But Belgium, if we're correct in our predictions, England's toughest match will be the final.
So are we advancing England?
Yes.
Okay. That gives us the Euro 2020 final of Belgium versus England. I'm not going to lie, the way you two were speaking about making it to the finals, going through that kind of knockout round, makes me feel like you guys aren't as confident in it as I think you might be.
I'm not super confident. I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop with this England team a little bit. And I'm just a bit concerned by watching some of the way they defend at times. And I think a good team might be able to pick them apart. And again, Southgate's got to get out of his own way. Because if he tries to win matches 1-0, they will lose matches 1-0. So I think I'm going to pick England to win the tournament, but I'm not going to say I am that confident about it. I think they could slip up at pretty much any stage, and that I'm fully expecting, even though I think they will win the tournament, I am fully expecting the usual experience and feeling that England supporters get, which is in the, even maybe as early as Germany in the first knockout round, suddenly it being the 80th minute and England are down 1-0. And we're watching Raheem Sterling sort of attempt to cross the ball in and either hitting the first man or hitting it sort of 30 yards out for a throw in. He's going to change sports. But I think I'm cautiously optimistic, but there's a heavy emphasis on cautious.
Yeah, my problem right now is that I have just gone game by game. Apart from the groups, I've gone game by game, and I've got England playing Belgium. And I just, my complete bias finds it difficult to not say England will win the tournament here. It's going to be at Wembley. It's going to be in front of a really good crowd. They're going to have played some really, really good major nations to have got there as well. And I think England have a pretty incredible strength and depth with the front line. I think they can really vary it up. Fair points about the defensive side of things. I think that is kind of the frailty of England in this. So it could be challenging.
Someone just won Big Chill podcast bingo.
Yeah. So I think that is something that Belgium could exploit. But I'm looking at England in a major finals at Wembley. I can't not. There's
Let me just flip it on you, Sam.
Looking past it.
If you could tell Romelu Lukaku that he's in a major final and that standing in his way, Tyrone Mings, how do you think he feels at that moment?
He feels absolutely fine.
I think
he's relishing.
Lukaku would be licking his lips, thinking, I'm bigger than him, I'm stronger than him, I'm faster than him. I think that's what worries me. It's that aspect of this that scares me, and it's going to scare me at every stage. I know we kind of spoken about England pretty confidently, and I'm sure there's listeners out there thinking this sounds like every major tournament. I'll be honest with you. I mean this very genuinely. This would be the first time in my life that if I had done this kind of thing in the past, I would have never picked England to have won a tournament before.
I would have probably picked England to go out against Germany. It would have been that expectation, the fact that it usually happens. This is the way England go in major tournaments. The second you get to a knockout phase against a major team, it goes wrong. Like, that's how I would have taken this. But there is that feeling after 2018 and a feeling with Southgate.
2018 this has nothing to do with 2018 for me. That's something that needs to get thrown out because they played bad teams. And they're not going to get that luxury here. The knockout stages are not going to be Colombia without James Rodriguez, which they scraped through on penalties. It's not going to be Sweden. And then it's, like they played bad. They beat teams they should have beaten. Take away the significance of the moment until they got to Croatia, which they should have won. But then the excuse is the significance of the moment of, well, it was a World Cup semifinal. We didn't expect to get that far. It was kind of playing with house money sort of feeling, even though it was a team they should have beaten. I don't think that experience makes me any more confident about them. It's just, I think they're a very good team.
What team, if this were the final, going into this final, do you think has more pressure on them?
Oh,
Belgium with that so-called golden generation that hasn't won yet, or England being England?
England. I think there are very rarely, the positive of England's optimism is the fact that the country does do a good job of getting behind them, apart from when they're kneeling. The downside of that optimism is it causes a backlash, right, from every other nation, which means the world's media would be building up to this with a lot of people hoping that England don't win, because the expectation would be that England will be insufferable if they do. And equally, the England players will know, playing in the first final since 1966 at home, when the last final they played in was at home in 1966, and this opportunity to kind of recreate that moment, and the fact that they'd be favorites. Like if England make the final, no matter if they're playing Belgium, if they're playing France, because of we've gone ahead and clicked it. England's victorious moment has just occurred mid-sentence. But I think there will be a lot of pressure on England at that stage. But yeah, we are crowning. The Big Chill podcast is officially crowning England as the champions of Europe.
And you know, much of a surprise, I feel like.
No, but in a way it was, because when I haven't done it yet, where I've gone to like group winners, best third place, and shown it to be in this kind of scenario going through matchup, and it's now just become real that I do think it will happen. Whereas before, I actually was kind of convinced a bit more about maybe like France or something like that. But kind of seeing the route they've got, seeing the problems that may come out as the logic has played out in my head, yeah.
No, I mean, look, every chance. They're joint favorites, right? Now, I mean, being bookmakers, joint favorites, it's not as if that's a statistical prediction. That's just based on how money is coming. And obviously you're going to have England fans betting on an England team. So very, very different. But yeah, they've got every chance. And
let me throw out one scenario for you too. What if in the semifinals, France were to beat Belgium and you had France versus England in the finals? Does that change your opinion at all?
I still would pick England to win. I'd be maybe slightly, even though I think Belgium, again, have the best 11, I'd be slightly less confident. I would just have this feeling, particularly for me, right, living in France, I would have this horrible feeling of I'm now going to have to spend the next couple of months with everyone telling me how France beat England in the final, and kind of holding that over me. So
you can have riots again as well.
Yeah.
You can have all the riots and car burning.
Well, that's just every day in France. But I think... And I also think I'd be very scared of Mbappe against this England defense. That would terrify me. So in the same way that Lukaku would be licking his lips at the prospect, Frank's just out there trying to make my editing life a nightmare right now. I'm going to keep this bit in, but just when not muting, so I get all the like nice clicks in the background that have to be individually removed at every stage. You don't understand the pain I go through with that. Look at him.
Hey Frank, you think England are winning as well, right?
when I was watching the podcast. I just got you so bad on thinking I was frozen. I actually think Belgium will take them. For all of the reasons that Eddie said makes him nervous, I think are the reasons that Belgium will come through if that were to be the matchup.
I'm hoping there's a Duca curse on that comment.
It should make you.
I hope there is too.
Oh no! So now it's gone.
Oh, you donut.
But yeah, it should be an exciting few weeks. It's gonna be nice, right? I kind of hate the fact that the opening day there's only the one match. I wish they would have I liked in the World Cup kicked off with the early kickoff and then multiple matches. I think it would be nice if tomorrow there was a match at sort of 3:00 in the afternoon and then you had two more on the opening day. You really get into the swing of the things, but I love the group stages more than I like the knockout stages, just because having 3 international matches a day for a while, it's just very, very nice. Right. That wraps up our Euro predictions. Going to be a busy few weeks for us, right? Because we've got this, we've got Royal Ascot, and we've got the end of the French Open.
Yeah, it's a few great weeks of sport coming up right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best period of sport around, right? I mean, it would be marginally better if it was a World Cup year, because, I mean, I do prefer a World Cup to the Euros. But I did know there was a...
I mean, I think it's slightly biased, though, towards us, just because we are huge enthusiasts of Royal Ascot, and obviously the Euros are a big deal.
Even if you don't like horse racing, you have the French Open now, you have Wimbledon coming up, you have the US Open in golf coming up, you have the Euros, you've got the Stanley Cup,
NBA
Cup playoffs,
NHL playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
Tour de France
starts soon. Right? If you
cricket tests are back up, English summer of
you
cricket.
got the final of the World Test Series, whatever the official name of that is, India against New Zealand soon. If you like sport, there should be multiple things out there for you right now. If you don't like sport, I feel sorry for you, because then you're just off watching Loki and sort of, going on message boards saying,
can't you do both?
I love the fact that we can't. We just talked about sports and said we watch Loki, but that isn't a thing.
No, it is a thing. I said, but if you don't like sport, then this is what.
Then you just have
Loki, and you're just a loser.
Wow. I would say you'd alienate some people, but if there's people listening to our podcast that do not like sports at all, then that's a loyal fan right there.
Well, also, you'd have to question their choice of podcasts, because as much as we do talk about things other than sport, we basically talk mostly about sport. So if you really hate sport, this is probably not the podcast for you. All right. Any other topics from the week that you'd like to wrap things up with?
Not from me. Just looking forward to kicking off the Euros.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to waking up early for the next... Well, at least the next week of my life will be a lot of waking up early. Between England has the early match, their first match against Croatia, and then Royal Ascot every day. But it's a great feeling at 11 a.m. to know you're up, a few thousand pounds after the races. So it's great. Puts the rest of your day in perspective.
That it's just going to get worse.
Yep.
It's good to peak by 11 in the morning and just know that the rest of the day is just pointless monotony until the next 5 o'clock
till the next day. Yeah. All right, boys. Well, we'll talk to you later.
Cheerio.